It was 9 o'clock in the evening when Bill finally made up his mind and went upstairs to the bedroom. Anna, his attractive 26-year-old wife, was getting ready to go out with her friends. He hadn't liked it when she met up with these women last Friday, and he couldn't, or wouldn't, accept it as part of a new weekly routine. Anna saw the expression on her husband's face and sighed. "Are you going to whine about this?" she asked. He nodded at the tiny dress laid out on the bed and the blue lingerie she was wearing. She looked stunning in them. "I haven't seen that before," Bill said. She looked slightly uncomfortable. "Well, of course you haven't. I bought them this week," she replied. With a thoughtful expression, he went to the bathroom and quickly returned with her laundry. "So this is okay for your husband?" He pointed at the very simple cotton bra and panties in his hand. "But you're happy you bought these?" He nodded at the blue bra and matching panties, "for some random person you haven't met yet." Bill stared intently at his wife, "Unless," he paused significantly, "unless it's not just another girls' night out. Maybe you've arranged to meet someone, sort of like a date?" He tilted his head thoughtfully as Anna stared at him in disbelief. "No," she exclaimed, "there's no one else. How could you even think that?" "So," Bill said, ignoring her question and choosing his words carefully, "when you go out with these friends, you never dance with other men, hug them, kiss them, or let them touch you. How dare you even suggest that?" She seemed angry now. "I dare to suggest it," he said. "I know more about your friends than you probably think. An unmarried woman, a couple of divorcees, and then you." He paused. "Do you really expect me to believe that when they are looking for a one-night stand, they won't try to drag you down to their level? How dare you judge them?" Anna snapped. "I'm not judging them at all," he replied evenly. "They are free to make their own choices, just as you are." She looked at him with unconscious suspicion. "And yet you're telling me not to go. What kind of choice is that?" "I'm not telling you not to go," he said. "I'm making it clear that I think such behavior is inappropriate for a married woman, and that your friends are pulling you into a situation that will inevitably end badly for our marriage. Do you really think my meeting with friends can threaten our marriage?" She scoffed. "Don't be so damn insecure. I'll always come home to you. Why are you so worried?" "I'm concerned because you're the most beautiful woman I know, and you're planning to go clubbing with single women. I don't trust add lustful men and alcohol to the mix, and it leads to trouble." And he continued, raising his hand to stop her from interjecting, "Our marriage is already at risk because you think that this," he gestured at her, "is something your husband should just accept. Well, it's too late now. I promised to meet them at 10, and you're going to make me late if you keep this up." Anne turned away. She went back to her makeup. Bill decided to make one last attempt. "You also promised to honor your husband," he said, pointedly. "And right now, you're calmly ignoring that promise. Or are your friends' feelings more important to you than mine? What the hell is wrong with you?" She snapped, "I'm going out for drinks with my friends. That's it. Now, for God's sake, leave me alone and relax." Bill took a deep breath. "The point is, I want to trust you. But I refuse to sit at home every Friday night, wondering if tonight's the night you take that extra step and end up sleeping with some guy against the bar wall." "I wouldn't do that," she interjected, but he stopped her again. "Gail was bragging about exactly those kinds of exploits on social media last week. She's one of your friends, and that's what she was up to. How long before you start thinking it's okay if I never find out?" Anna just stared at him silently. Bill continued, now getting angry, "If you want to go dancing, invite me along. If you just want to rub up against strangers, then be honest, and we can end this right now." "Now, you're just insulting me," Anna retorted indignantly. "No, I'm being honest. I don't believe you're not doing dirty dancing and kissing hustlers looking for a random hookup, or worse. I'm willing to believe you haven't slept with anyone yet, but that's the choice I'm giving you, go or stay. It's up to you. But keep in mind, I have a choice too. If you leave, I won't be here waiting to complain and whine when you come back," he said. There he said it. He had given her every chance to understand his concerns, to hear his desire to make their marriage work, but she ignored him. Now, she had a choice, him or her friends. "Damn bad joke, Bill," she said, angrier than he had ever seen her in their 4 years together. "No, it's not a joke," he said quietly. "If you want to dress like your promiscuous friends and go drinking and dancing with them every Friday night, and that's okay with you, I'm just saying that the prospect of sitting around waiting for the day you come home having cheated on me is not something I envision for my life." He said, moving toward the door, "I have things to do. I'll be downstairs when you decide." She sat silently in front of the mirror, thinking she hadn't done anything with others. Well, Not entirely. But last week, there had been a temptation, and she had given a guy a handjob. That was all, and she liked the way men looked at her on the dance floor. It made her feel more desired. Bill always complimented her on how she looked, but she felt he had to since he was her husband. The guys at the club, they wanted to devour her. Bill sat at his laptop, filling out an online form. At 10, Anna came downstairs. He looked at her. Was she staying or leaving? She was in heels, showcasing her long legs, disappearing into a short blue dress. He said nothing. Was she going to take his offer to let her husband join her for dancing, or was she going out with her promiscuous friends? She still looked a bit hesitant, and after a tense pause for both of them, she spoke. I can't be late. We can talk about this tomorrow. Bill slowly shook his head and returned to his computer, ignoring his wife. She stepped towards the door, unsure if her husband was bluffing. He didn't even hear the front door close when she left. He finished filling out the form, attached a link to an email, and hit send. Bill went upstairs and threw clothes into a couple of suitcases. On Monday, he would tell his boss that he accepted the job offer in Dubai. He called a taxi and, while waiting, sent a message to his wife's family group. Hi everyone, I'm sorry you have to hear this from me, but Anna has made it clear she wants more excitement from life than I can provide. I sent her the link to her divorce application. It has been a privilege to be part of your family, but I hope you understand why I have decided not to stay in touch from now on. He had one more thing to do, so he went to the printer, took the paper from the output tray, and wrote a note at the bottom. He taped it over their wedding photo above the fireplace, then he turned off his phone and stepped outside to wait for the taxi. Anna had just sat down in the club and was chatting with Gail when her phone rang. If that's Bill, begging me to come home, she said irritably. But it was her older sister, Karen. Where the hell are you? Karen shouted. I'm at Stardust with my friends, she said, defending herself against the unexpected attack. What's going on? Does Bill know? Karen asked. Yeah, well, he knows I'm meeting up with friends, and so what? She replied. Was he happy about it? Karen sounded furious, but then again, she had always had a soft spot for Bill. Well, no, he wasn't thrilled, of course, but I told him we'd talk about it tomorrow. Well, then good luck with that, you stupid, she snapped before hanging up. Gail watched in surprise as Anna frantically tried to open her email app on her phone. Even in the dim light of the nightclub, it was clear that her friend had noticeably paled. Then Anna saw the message, to her family. That must have been what prompted Karen's call. Then her phone rang again. Thank God, Bill, she thought, but no, it was her father. What did you say to Bill? Her dad demanded. The man treated you like a queen, and you wanted more? No, Dad, I just felt trapped. I just needed one night a week to be myself. Are you in a damn nightclub? Your husband just left you, and you're out clubbing? He said incredulously. Her father was clearly furious. He never cursed in front of the family. What could she say? She was in the club, it was evident from the background noise. No, Dad, he must have decided after I left the house. Dad, she said, but he hung up. Anna grabbed her bag and phone and rushed out, completely ignoring Gail and not noticing her two other friends as she passed them on the street. She found a taxi and was home within 15 minutes. On the way, she tried calling her husband, but his phone went straight to voicemail. The house was quiet and empty. Anna kicked off her shoes and ran upstairs. Most of his clothes, his shaving kit, gone. She went back downstairs, his phone, laptop, and everything else, all gone. Anna ran upstairs again. His passport was also missing. He had warned her there was no ambiguity, no room for misinterpretation. If she left, she would come back to an empty house. She knew he never lied, and knew he had been betrayed by a girl in the past. Bill valued honesty above all. He did exactly what he said he would. Anna went back downstairs, in total disarray. An hour ago, she had been married, now, she was separated. In less than a year, she would be divorced. For a night out dancing, then she saw the photograph above the fireplace. Something looked wrong when Anna examined the image, she nearly threw up. It was a picture from someone's social media. It showed a young man down on one knee, proposing to his girlfriend. But there, in the background, was Anna, and she was kissing some guy. Above the photograph, Bill had written in large black letters, "Liar." Bill went abroad, and Anna was granted the freedom she had dreamed of. Everything that followed Anna's abortion, 6 months later, Bill eventually marrying that sweet and charming Australian woman he met while surfing in Dubai, these are separate stories. But their story, the story of Bill and Anna, ended here. Thank you for watching the first story. We have prepared another one for you. Enjoy. Damn, how does he know? How did Dave find out about this? My marriage is over, I just know it. The courts will deem Dave the primary guardian of our children, and he'll be awarded custody. I'll be a social pariah, avoided by almost everyone in this church-going community. Forgiven by the priest with gentle words, but with a judgmental look on his face, just like he did with Mary Skelton. She lasted only about 3 months after her husband found out about her affair, 3 lonely months when the rest of the community shunned her, despite the priest's forgiveness. This community really despises cheating spouses. I slammed on the brakes and screeched to a halt, stopping just 2 meters from hitting a little girl who had run into the road chasing a ball. She looked about 3 years old, about the same age as my Paola. I was driving too fast, too absorbed in my huge problem. The child's mother glared at me from the sidewalk, even though it was her damn fault for not watching her kid. I looked around and saw I was near a large park, just 5 minutes from home. I suppressed my fears, drove another 200 meters with shaking hands, and stopped, fearing I might accidentally hit someone else. How could Dave even think that? No, that's stupid. Once Dave found out I had an affair, it was only logical for him to think poorly of me and want to cover his bases. He may run a small editorial service from home, but that doesn't mean he's stupid, far from it. Once he found out, of course, he thought this wasn't my first time and started doing DNA tests on the kids. But how the hell did he find out? Carl and I were so careful. My thoughts reminded me of Carl. I took out my phone and went to Carl. If Dave ever asks, my motto was to stick as close to the truth as possible. My message, "Can you talk?" Waiting for a response, I kept kicking myself. Why oh why did I let that smooth-talking little bastard seduce me? No, come on, be honest. The way we slept together the first time wasn't seduction and was entirely understandable. It happened when we were out of town, after we had just spent 2 exhausting days discussing a grueling deal and celebrated with too much champagne. We tumbled into bed together. If I had stopped after the first time, everything would have been fine. I would have had a secret I regretted until my last day, a serious secret that could only hurt my husband and family. But or rather we, unfortunately, were both caught up in the excitement of sleeping with someone else after more than 10 years of marriage. The allure of the forbidden, the thrill of the naughtiness, the thrill of knowing we were cheating on our spouses and successfully hiding it from 2 people who knew us so well, or not so successfully, as it turns out. My thoughts were interrupted by a message from Carl. "No, having dinner with Mary and the kids." "What's up?" "Well, they say misery loves company. He knows Dave knows about us." How the hell did Dave find out? We were incredibly careful. We only met up when we were out of town, and only if we could get adjoining rooms. We never walked through the same door together, always used protection, even the first time. We acted completely normal, both in public and at home with our spouses. Damn, Mary's acting normal, so he hasn't told her anything. Do you think he will? How mad is he? I don't know. We haven't talked yet. I ran off as soon as I found out he knows. This time, I didn't have to wait long for a reply. Please, beg him not to tell Mary. Selfish little prick. To hell with my marriage, as long as his isn't affected. Bastard. I might just tell his wife if Dave doesn't like it. I said, misery loves company. So, how were we discovered? I made sure my love for my husband didn't suffer. I didn't introduce any new positions or techniques I learned from Carl. Fat chance. Making love with Carl was vanilla and uninspiring. He lasted less time and was nowhere near as varied as my Dave. In fact, if it weren't for the illicitness of it all, it wouldn't have lasted the 6 times over 7 months that we actually had. How unlucky we got caught before I was planning to end our affair after our next trip in 2 weeks. Focus, Megan. How we were discovered doesn't matter, we've been exposed, and now my husband trusts me so little, he's doing DNA tests on our kids. My mind drifted back to 20 minutes ago when I came home late, too late to enjoy dinner with my family. Luckily, Dave worked from home, took the kids to school, and cooked dinner 6 nights a week. I was supposed to cook on Sundays, but usually, I just went and got takeout. Let's just say cooking isn't one of my strong suits. When I walked through the door, I froze at the horrifying sight. Dave was sitting on one of the kitchen chairs with a swab stick, wiping the inside of our 5-year-old daughter, Jillian's, mouth. An open, sterilized packet lay on the table. Peter, our 7-year-old son, was also there, either waiting his turn or already done. I'd read enough stories and watched enough TV shows to know I was witnessing the opening act of a DNA test. My initial reaction was rage. How dare Dave think the kids aren't his? I wasn't Beach, or was I? Those words stopped Carl's wife, who had called the police. Together with Dave, they learned the whole story, as Carl begged them to call an ambulance for him. Since Carl said he was hit, and his wife claimed he had run into a wall, the police investigation went nowhere. By the time Carl returned from the hospital, the locks on his house had been changed, and his wife had booked an online appointment with a divorce attorney. How do I know all this? Dave came straight home, told me to pack a bag and leave. One look at the fire in his eyes and the bruises on his knuckles was enough to guess where they came from. I did as he asked and fled to a mid-range motel. The next day, I saw Carl bandaged up, having breakfast in the bar. All hopes that Dave would keep things quiet were shattered early in the day when Carl and I were summoned to the COO's office and promptly terminated. She didn't cite any moral grounds, our contract simply stated she didn't have to employ scum like us. Ouch. I knew what the immediate future held when I called all 3 divorce attorneys in our town, and none returned my call. When I went to the diner for dinner, the waitress refused to acknowledge my existence. The final nail in the coffin, however, was meeting Carl and learning that family friends and former colleagues were already treating him like a leper. Within 2 days, spurred by a visit from the motel manager who claimed his establishment was fully booked, yeah, right, Carl and I accepted the inevitable and left town. We didn't want to become social ghosts, as we had seen Mary Skelton become last year when she was caught cheating. We drove 300 kilometers and started a new life together. It didn't last long. I know this might sound incredibly obvious, but when 2 cheaters come together, there's no trust. Stupid. I never realized how crucial trust is in a relationship until I found myself struggling with the urge to check his phone while he was in the bathroom. By the time I finally mustered the courage to ask Dave if I could come back to town to visit the kids on weekends, they had already replaced me. He was quite a catch, and once he was available, vultures, being attractive singles and widows, had declared their interest. By the time I got my act together, an elegant pair of shoes lay under Dave's bed. My kids had a stepsister, and they were already calling another woman mom now, too. Old to start another family, all I have left is to sit and ponder the lonely life ahead of me. Dave, I lie here glancing at the bedside clock, 11:05 p.m. Ruth's soft breathing beside me reminds me of our intimate marathon over the past 2 hours. Damn, making love to someone new after 10 years with one woman was good, damn good. We did things that were on the edge of being unacceptable. Yeah, life is good, although a bit peculiar. My wife cheated on me, but before I could mourn the death of that marriage too much, I was seduced by a younger, more beautiful, and more enterprising woman. The surreal last day of my old marriage still confuses the hell out of me. Maybe if I go over it in my head for the 10,000th time, it will finally make sense. How did it all go down on the last day of my marriage? Megan ran into the house and, without saying a word, just turned and left again. I heard her car start up and drive off. I was busy for a few more minutes, and by the time I called Megan's cell, it was busy. Not finding any signs of her presence, I started putting the kids to bed, and they quickly fell asleep. Unfortunately, not seeing their mother before bed wasn't unusual. I went to the kitchen and was just about to call Megan again when the home phone rang. The display showed an unrecognized cell number. The next few minutes, as I recall, went something like this: "Hello, this is David Brown." Hi Dave, it's Carl." Of course, I knew Carl. He had started working with my wife some time ago. I had seen him at a few work events and had even been invited to his housewarming party. What was his wife's name? Rebecca, Becky, something like that. Very attractive, nice figure, a couple of years younger than Megan and me. Carl, on the other hand, seemed like a bore to me, arrogant, smug. He looked down on me, a legend in his own mind. He was the last person I wanted to talk to after a rough day. That's why my next words probably didn't sound very friendly. "Yes, Carl, what can I do for you? What will it take?" I had no idea what he was talking about and remained silent in confusion, forcing him to continue. "If my wife finds out I've been having an affair with Megan for the past 6 months or so, she'll cut my balls off and I'll lose my kids. So, I'll be straight. Dave, what will it take to keep your mouth shut?" I don't remember dropping the phone and collapsing to the floor as the crushing news that my loving wife had betrayed me in the worst possible way hit my consciousness. I had no suspicion and couldn't believe it, yet the pleading in Carl's voice was pretty convincing. Then my mind turned to a problem that had been discussed frequently of late: why did my wife seem emotionally distant from me and the kids for the past 6 months or so? Nothing radical, but definitely something was up. Later, I realized that the first stage of grief, denial, lasted less than 30 minutes. That stage was replaced by anger. I was engulfed in a blind rage that masked the pain of my loss. I still had enough self-control not to lash out at Megan. That would lead to jail. However, her lover was a different story altogether. As soon as I heard Megan was back, I drove to that bastard's house and hit him with all the fury I had. Carl's forced confession, while he bled, was completely unnecessary for me but essential for his wife. Releasing my anger allowed me to go home and calmly tell Megan to get out. Listening to the soft snoring of my woman in bed, I realized I was no closer to solving the mystery than the last 100 times I'd thought about it. Why did Carl sow the seeds of his own marital destruction by confessing to me, when I had no suspicion? I couldn't shake the thought that Megan's strange behavior that evening, when she came home from work and then ran off without a word, was somehow connected to all of this. I replayed that evening in my mind once more. I had made dinner as usual, Megan had confirmed she'd be late, so we sat and ate with the kids, chatting as we usually did. Then it started to become clearer. Jillian had complained about a sore spot in her mouth. I grabbed a flashlight, pulled down her lower lip, and saw a small ulcer. Going to our first aid cabinet, I grabbed a tube of vanilla and one of the individually wrapped cotton swabs, opened it, applied the cream, and used it as intended. Absolutely no connection to the mystery at hand. Damn, I was beginning to suspect I would never know. Turning onto my side, I slipped my arm onto the head of the sleeping beauty beside me and held her, kissing her gently on the nape of her neck. She snuggled into me and purred softly. To hell with the mystery, life is good, life.